KayFabe Smark podcast. Welcome to the KayFabe Smark podcast with Eric Todd and Brian Rampa, your smart mark source for news and opinions on the world of professional wrestling.
Hey, what is going on? This is the KayFabe Smark podcast. This is episode 38. You are sitting here with us on a Friday. If you're listening to the audio version, this is Thursday night. We're recording this on the YouTube, so let's clean up some of that business right there. Head on over to YouTube, subscribe, like, and share all of our content over there. Head on over to Facebook and get on the KayFabe Smark Facebook group, and then also head on over to Instagram and over on TikTok, the KayFabe Smark, covering all the KayFabe Smark sources on all the social media platforms. And then once again, head on over to audibletrials.com/the KayFabe Smark. Get yourself a free audiobook, free 30-day trial, and check all that out. Once again, hanging out with me, as always, every time we do the podcast, we got Mr. Eric Todd. Eric, what is happening in your world?
You know, same old. We had Super Bowl Sunday this week. Patrick Mahomes and the Butterfinger wide receivers there completely embarrassed me as I sat there in my Chiefs jersey. But thank goodness we got to move past that and watch some wrestling, because that was a shit show.
All I know is, only thing I watched of the Super Bowl, because I am not a football fella, is I put $20 on the coin toss on Barstool Sports, because they opened online sports betting in Michigan. They gave me $10 for opening an account. I put that 20. I put 10 of my own in there. Put that 20 on the coin toss for heads. Bam. Turn that 20 into 40, baby. And then I went upstairs and watched ECW from 1993.
Make that money, boy.
I was in and out. That was my Super Bowl experience.
And next Super Bowl, you can put that 40 on that coin toss, turn it into 80.
It's it.
By like 2048, I think you might have like $1,000 in the bank.
Yeah, it might be worth something. I just wanted to do it to see what it was like doing the online sports betting and how convenient it is. And if you like to gamble, it is almost too convenient. So be careful with the online sports betting, because it's simple and easy just to pick all kinds of weird bets, and you can even do some type of casino stuff I saw in there now. So interesting times. But you can't bet on wrestling. You can't bet on MMA, though.
Yeah, that's interesting, though, because I had no idea about the whole actually in Michigan online betting being open. I believe it was like a year ago, some podcast I was listening to, they're always advertising mybookie.eu or AU or something like that.
Yeah.
And I tried to sign up for that, and it's some off border overseas on a cruise boat in the middle of Atlantic Ocean. And there's all these rules and regulations where if they don't like your bet, they can just take your money and close your account. And I wasn't fucking with that. But
nope.
This Michigan thing I might have to look into.
Yeah, you can do DraftKings, FanDuel, Barstool Sports, and I don't know. I think there's a couple other ones, but I was putzing around on them over the weekend and picked Barstool Sports to put my bet in on, and there you go. Paid off. Doubled my money. Turned my 20 to 40. I'm a winner. I'm going to go out and buy a chicken dinner. All right, let's get into some wrestling and talk some wrestling and see if there's any news on going across Eric's desk, scrolling across his feed of the social media platforms.
Yeah, a few news stories this week. First of all, our boy Butch Reed died.
Oh, yes. Did he invent Netflix?
Yeah. I mean, the worldwide professor Butch Reed, inventing Netflix and what have you, has passed away. I miss him and his blonde hair.
R.I.P. Butch Reed.
So yeah, Butch Reed passed away at 66, so that's a bummer. So we lost Butch Reed, but we gained a new chick in the world. Oh, Tyler Rex became a girl.
Oh, yes, I saw this. My dad, I went over to my parents' house over the weekend, and he's like, "Who's the wrestler turning into a woman?" And I said, "What?" And I saw the post, but, Tyler Rex doesn't, quite what you call register in my brain as a professional wrestler, as I
Right.
don't really remember and recall too much of his work in the ring. So then I re-looked it up. I said, "Oh yeah, that guy." Well, he wasn't really a wrestler. He was just
Yeah, he was around for a minute, but yeah, I mean, I don't care. Do what you want. Cut your dick off, make yourself a vagina. I don't mind, but it was just kind of a whoa, like because Tyler Rex is cut, dude. He's a big dude,
right.
and just nah, I'm a chick. I'm like, all right, man. God bless you.
Oh yeah, I did not remember it because I cared that he's turned into a woman. I just didn't remember it because I just didn't care.
Right, precisely. Just like that. Shit, I can't even remember that guy's name that just got released from WWE, who was always spouting off on Twitter about how much he hated gay people and gay people were evil. Man,
You caught me slipping, so I don't know that one either.
yeah, I don't know. Whatever his name is, he used to bitch all the time about how much he hated gay people and Jews and stuff. And then a video surfaced of him doing gay porn.
Oh,
But
well, there you go.
yeah, so if anyone wants to remember that guy's name, he just got released from WWE.
Send us a Instagram DM at the KayFabe Smark.
Yeah, our boy Terry Funk, he's not feeling too well right now. Terry's now 76, and it
Now, when you say Terry's now 76, I almost want to say only 76 or still 76. Did he figure out a way to pause time? Because it seems like he's been old forever.
I was just gonna say that because the first time I saw Terry Funk was probably in the mid 90s, late 90s. The Insane Clown Posse put out a bootleg VHS tape of Japanese death matches. And that was my first time seeing Terry Funk, and he looked about 76 in that in like 1995.
Yeah, he's just been old forever. He just was old when he wrestled with his brother, and then he was old when he came back as, in the ECW era. Then he was old when he went to WWE as Chainsaw Charlie. He's just been old.
Yeah, but he had about 52 retirement matches, and you just always expect to see Terry Funk come back. But I think he's hung it up for good now. He's just resting at home. Apparently he's in a lot of pain. You got a lot of well wishes and whatnot coming in from the likes of Dustin Rhodes and Mick Foley. And Terry shared a video on Twitter, just kind of letting his fans know how he's feeling right now and to just kind of leave him alone.
I got a clip of that. Want me to play that?
Oh yeah, go for it.
All right.
I'm Terry Funk, and I'm an old man and I'm tired. And I truly, truly mean that. So please stop sending me autographed pictures to autograph, because I'm getting lame brain. That means goofy. And please, I'd appreciate it if you didn't send any more pictures of me for me to sign. Thank you very much.
Whoop. Yeah, that is a sad to hear him talk like that, and even when he says he's getting goofy, I'm not even teasing. He literally repeated himself to not send pictures again, like he hadn't said it. So I think he's just to sit back and relax and enjoy what seems to maybe be left. Unfortunately, hopefully they're just maybe taking some time to himself will improve the quality of life.
Yeah, just sit back, enjoy your ranch, and chill. Terry, you worked your ass off for about 50 years in the business. But Kurt Angle debuted his new podcast with Conrad Thompson on Super Bowl Sunday.
Oh my God, I missed this one. Conrad's got another one, huh?
Yeah, Conrad, he's got to be working 7 days a week at this point. We got to see if we can get him to throw some money our way and pick us up. We'll take the load off. We'll do some podcasts with old JR and Ric Flair and whatnot.
You need to get on the Conrad train here. He's figured out the business model, son, to get on the wrestling podcast.
Yeah, so Conrad and Kurt Angle debuted the Kurt Angle Show. Nice original title there on Super Bowl Sunday. Go ahead and check that out. That's on all your podcast places and Apple, iTunes, Spotify, all that. But pretty much in this debut episode, Kurt Angle just talked about mainly just his beginnings and coming up with Brock Lesnar and that match at WrestleMania 19 with Brock Lesnar. Quite an interesting listen. Definitely give it a shout. Old Kurt's what's weird is he's been on TV all these years, but you can still see him getting his sea legs in a podcast setting. He just doesn't seem quite comfortable yet. Chatting him up with Conrad there.
Well, if anybody can put him through the boot camp of podcasting, I think Conrad will be the man, as he's got, Arn Anderson doing a podcast, and he's taught him how to use technology and of the such. So I think he can get Curtis Angular going with his podcast.
Yeah. I mean, we're not top of the food chain in the podcast world yet anyway, but man, that Arn Anderson was a tough listen. I don't know if you gave it a listen, but that was rough. Arn's not exactly Mr. Personality.
Well, the best was listening to them make fun of it on the What Happened When Wednesday, or What Happened When on with Tony Schiavone on Wednesdays, the podcast they'd put out.
Right.
They just bust balls on that podcast. It's a great podcast for watch-alongs, and but they just bust a lot of balls on it. It's a lot of fun. Not much real wrestling talk, just a lot of ball busting. But they made fun of Arn and his breathing into the microphone. And I was thinking, this guy's supposed to be kind of like their friend, right? Like, he does a podcast. And
they work together every Wednesday.
They just bust balls, and he just, all you hear, because they just talked about how Arn would do this. And just breathe into the microphone. But the way they teased him was like he was never going to hear it. I don't know. It always made me laugh.
I don't know. Now I got to go back and listen to the Skiavone podcast because
I like those Skiavone watch-alongs. Those are pretty fun.
Yeah. So Angler's got his podcast. Now there's rumors floating around right now for a Roman Reigns, Brock Lesnar WrestleMania rematch. Obviously not next year or this year, but quite possibly at WrestleMania 2022. We may see a Brock Lesnar Roman Reigns rematch. And I was just wondering your opinion. The other rumor that's been floating around for a year or two is Roman versus Rock. Now, do you want to see Roman versus Rock or Roman versus Brock?
Well, the fact that they rhyme is just, something for the ages itself.
Got to be a three-way at that point, right?
Yeah, Roman versus Brock and The Rock. I'd probably rather see Roman and The Rock just because I'd rather see The Rock come back. Even if The Rock comes back just for one stint, I think I'd be more excited about that. Brock is a great athlete, but Brock, to me, as a in-ring professional wrestler, professional entertainer, has something, missing. And if the guy obviously has to have Paul Heyman beside him, Paul would be involved, you would assume, at this point in the storyline, or what would be a storyline, that he'd have to be involved, being the advocate of both. So
right.
At least you have that going for it. But I think The Rock, now imagine Rock and Paul Heyman in some promo battles leading up to WrestleMania.
Some verbal warfare, if you will.
My thing is with the Brock and Roman Reigns is, how are they going to, the build up to it might seem boring. It just might be basically a match. Like, we're going to have this match, that's it. Like, not a big professional wrestling lead up, if you know what I'm saying, where they're going to have, interferences on Raw and, promos and internet clips and whatever they're going to do for this stuff might seem boring. But with The Rock involved, I think that'd be just pure entertainment. So I say Rock. For that long-winded explanation, I picked The Rock because I think it'd be more fun to listen to those two battle it out on the mic, and then The Rock can lead them through a dance and tell a great story where Brock can beat you up and tell the story that Brock beat you up.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, so my only concern with Rocky is he seems I think he's scared to get injured again. He doesn't want to get, I think he got hurt last time he did a match. He's got a multi-million-dollar movie career going right now. He can't really afford to get hurt. So I'd be afraid that the match itself would suffer, but the buildup would definitely be way better with The Rock and Roman Reigns, especially, with the whole family dynamic, of course.
Oh, yes. I think that would be a great, especially leading up with that they could use the whole head of the table and who was there first, and it could be a good way to pass the torch over to Roman and continue that on. The good news is, if The Rock goes in, he won't half-ass it. So if you do put The Rock into the situation, he's not going to step in and then just pussyfoot around it. He's going to come in and be all in. And if he doesn't want to do it all in, he won't go. So I think it'll work. It'll work. If he does sign up for it, he's signing up for it, is what I'm getting at.
Well, good arguments on both sides, but we want to hear from you, Smarkies. Get over to anchor.fm/thekayfabesmark. Leave us an audio message and let us know what you think. Do you want to see Roman and Brock or Roman and Rock? Yeah. It's up to you.
Let us know. Hit us up.
Let us know. Let WWE know.
Let us know. Let WWE know. Hit us up. You can send, like Eric said, you can go to anchor.fm/KayFabeSmark. You can leave that audio message. You can also hit us up in the DMs on Facebook and Instagram or even TikTok, and let us know in there, and we will talk about that. So, any other news, Eric? You're just loaded with it this week.
I am. There's a lot going on this week. I haven't watched much WWE product, but this one particular thing, as funny as it was, kind of irritated me a bit. So Lana and Nia Jax had a tables match on Raw. Lana has been eating shit for months. She went, I believe, 8 or 9 weeks straight with Nia Jax putting her through tables. Lana wins this match, and this is her time to shine. This is where the spotlight can finally be on Lana for a minute. I think she's taken her punishment for Miro heading over to AEW. Well, Nia Jax takes this bump on the ring apron right on her Sasquatch size ass and immediately screams, "Ow, my butt! Ow, my hole!" Which on replays WWE's bleep the hole, by the way. But that segment was immediately trending on Twitter, and I think it was a work. I don't think Nia Jax is gonna be screaming my hole just willy-nilly.
You don't think that'll be her new gimmick?
I think that was just her being funny, or her trying to be. I don't think it was genuine. So I think she was doing it, trying to steal the spotlight. Her hole is now trending on Twitter, her giant gaping hole. And I think it just swallowed Lana right up. And poor Lana is getting fucked again.
Poor Lana's getting fucked again. Yeah, and then she won the match, right?
Yeah, Lana ended up in however she put Nia through the table, the fucking table didn't break. And they just panned the camera off the table. The legs collapsed, but the table itself didn't break. So the camera just panned right off the table, and they rung the bell, said Lana won.
Oh, well, there you go.
I mean, it's par for the course after that whole handcuff fiasco at Royal Rumble. I guess what the hell do we expect at this point?
Yeah, I was going to try and pull up an image real quick, but technology was not cooperating with me. We will go ahead and talk about that. I'll share it later on our Instagram. There's some funny memes of her yelling, "My hole!"
My hole. Quick little note here. Bronson Reichsteiner, Scott Steiner's baby boy, booming baby boy, the 6 foot, 230-pound former NFL player, is now officially signed to NXT. So we get to see some Steiner pride coming through on the NXT brand.
You said this was, which Steiner was it? This Rick or Scott?
Bronson Rocksteiner, so it's Scott Steiner's son.
Scotty's son, huh?
Now you got me questioning myself.
Or is it Ricky's? I think it's going to be Rick Steiner's. He quit and went and did the whole family thing. Scotty's been still traveling the world, traveling the bingo halls.
It's Rick Steiner's son.
That's what I was going to guess.
My apologies.
Yeah. I was going to say anything associated with Scott Steiner is probably not going to get in, especially his kid, because then he'd want to come around, and nobody wants the big bad booty daddy hanging out at NXT, teaching the kids how to work. Well, that's cool. Rick was always a monster too. Not as, he didn't get the steroid-induced muscles that his brother went for, but
Yeah, as a kid, Rick Steiner was always my favorite, the dog-faced gremlin. I just thought he was awesome. I always thought Scott Steiner just kind of looked like a nerd, kind of a goof in his little striped singlet or whatever. This is pre Big Bad Booty mathematician days, but but yeah, I was always a Riccolo back in the day. But so yeah, we'll see what Bronson has in store.
oh, Bronson. See what they change his name to. Think they'll go to the Steiner lineage, or they'll just drop it and move on with something else.
Just slap a U of M code on them and keep the Steiner name going. That's what I say. And the last story on my page here, our boy Ryan Nemeth, that's Dirk Ziggler. Not Dirk Diggler, folks, Dolph Ziggler's little brother, Ryan Nemeth, recently did an interview and let us all know how he got into AEW. He basically just went over to AEW to visit Brody Lee's wife, Amanda Huber, and to visit the kids and say hello and whatnot. That was because this is when they were doing the birthday celebration for -1. And he said a wrestler, and especially an independent wrestler, never goes to a ring without his gear. And while he was at AEW, they asked him if he wanted to wrestle around a little bit. He obliged, and yeah, that's why we've been seeing Ryan Nemeth here. So that was just a pretty organic way to go. No back channels, no sneaking around. He just came over to AEW to hang out and ended up, looks like he's under contract. But
hey, good for him.
yeah, we also got to see a little insight on his time at NXT. I guess in the training program with Tom Pritchard and John Laurinaitis, Ryan Nemeth here was top 3 in the developmental, doing fantastic. Everybody loved him. Well, a new coach took over, which he failed to name. Him being Nemeth failed to name the coach that took over and who was no longer there. But apparently this coach had a problem with either Nemeth or Dolph Ziggler and kind of just pushed him to the side, didn't fuck with him anymore, said he basically wasn't going anywhere, and NXT cut ties with Nemeth. So that's how we're seeing him over on the AEW brand.
Well, I mean, from what we've seen, obviously it's been jobber-type enhancement style matches, but, I guess we'll just let time tell. I'm assuming he's going to be a decent wrestler. His brother's, very good in his own right, so I think things will be okay for Mr. Nemeth Ziggler.
Yeah, I'm assuming this is going to go in the same vein as the Britt Baker story here, where Britt Baker started off a little bit shaky there, but her boyfriend, Adam Cole, seems to be training her, has her on the right track. Nemeth is 36 right now, so he's been doing this for a minute. He was good over in NXT, but I still think he probably has his big brother's words in his ears, and I think we'll see Nemeth go a long way in AEW if they let him.
Yeah, I think it'll be. Why not? I can't judge him on anything he's done so far because again, it's just been enhancement stuff. But he keeps his nose down and listens to big brother over there. I think things will be good. Eric, I mean, you're just killing me with news today. Is there anything else going on?
Sorry, old regular Peter Jennings ass over here.
No, you're all right. I'm digging it. Last week it was like there wasn't shit happening on the internet for wrestling. It was just like, yeah, there was wrestling on TV 4 nights, and then cool, all right. What's next?
Well, also, just in true Eric fashion, got to cover my ass a little bit because all I have to talk about this week is AEW. I did not catch a blink of NXT. But we'll be watching some NXT this weekend because TakeOver is this weekend.
Yes, I do always love the TakeOver events, the weekly lead-ups. For me, it's just keeping up on the, I'll read the results and maybe do a quick watch through sometime throughout the week or the weekend, but the show just doesn't get me excited. It just doesn't get me excited. There's a couple things why, and it's just, we can discuss those on a later time and date, but nonetheless.
Nonetheless, I am ready to get into AEW Dynamite if you are, Mr. Rampa.
Yes, sir. Yes,
All
sir.
right, we had the Wednesday night Dynamite for February 10th, starting out big with a TNT Championship match. We've got the bad boy Joey Janela going up against the TNT champion Darby Allin.
You know, this match had. I know we're going to break it down the way we always do, so hang with me here. I'm not jumping to the end, but this match had dog shit written all over it.
Oh yeah,
And now we'll
I could smell it from a mile away.
But
But
my shoes came out clean.
yeah, I smelled shit on my shoes, but somehow they're still squeaky clean.
Yeah, so let's break it down.
So yeah, first things first. Let's talk about Darby Allin's fucking makeup here. What the hell was this? Do you know something I don't? Because he normally has the skull and it's all badass and very Thunder Rosa like.
Yeah.
But this week he's going for some sort of like streetwalker eyeshadow mime. I don't know.
Yeah, I
he
don't
looked
know.
goofy as fuck this week. That's pretty much all I can say.
I did not. I do not know any secrets of why he changed his paint. I don't know of any post characters that he's created. I don't know of anything. This was just Darby being creative with some paint or some makeup.
Well, cut it out, Darby. Go back to the skull.
Go back to the skull. Don't change shit.
But this is where I looked at the bottom of my shoes and I didn't see any shit right off the bat because we're starting out immediately. This match with Joey Janela, the guy doing local TV ads for, I don't even remember, pizza places or wing places, and Darby Allin. This match is starting out with hammer locks and collar and elbow tie-ups.
That's exact. Yeah.
That's all it takes from these two to impress me, Brian.
I thought it was almost like they took a jab at everybody who shit on him, and we'll just name Jim Cornette. So everybody, like, they just said Jim Cornette is going to be watching this match, and he's expecting Joey Janela to jump off of a crane and through the ring mat, and he's expecting Darby Allin to fill himself in a hefty garbage bag full of thumbtacks while, he is tossed into the sea. It is just, and they didn't go for any of that. They went classic wrestling.
No, there was some Janela sprinkled in here.
Well, I'm saying to kick it off, they went very kind of classic wrestling. I mean,
so we get some classic chain wrestling. So they work the hammer locks for a good couple minutes there, and that's where I see what you're saying with taking a jab, almost like classic wrestling. Look, we can stretch a match out with hammer locks too, guys. This isn't just a Ole and Arn Anderson thing.
Yeah, we can do this. Watch, and they did pretty good. They kept me entertained. I enjoyed this match.
Yeah, we did get a little Janela-ism going on here where I don't know if this was a botch or if Darby just did really well, but it appeared that Janela dropped Darby right on his face on the ring apron.
Oh, on the hardest part of the apron there when he did him.
The hardest part of the ring, yeah.
I watched it twice. I watched it last night, and then this evening I did a quick scan through, just refreshing my brain and, jotting some things down and mental notes. And the first time I saw it, I thought, damn, he just dropped that son of a bitch on his face piece. And then the second time I watched it, I'm thinking it was a good work. But nonetheless, either way, I was happy.
Wow, if it looks real, and he's not hurt, I think they did a good job on that. Get a nice little elbow suicida from Janela. And at this point, I've seen it probably 3 or 4 times throughout the match. Janela, almost every time the camera zooms in on his face, he looks like he just got Bigfoot's dick rammed up his ass. He's just, eyes are as big as dinner plates. Just complete surprise on his face. Oh man, he's overselling the facial expressions like crazy, and maybe this is just a Janela thing. I don't know.
I think it's a Janela thing. I think it's somebody can screen cap it, make a meme out of it, and Joey's got a thing going on there. He could slap it on a T-shirt, brand it out. I don't know what he's thinking. Also, I heard an interview with Jeff Jarrett I don't know where I heard this at. It was Jeff Jarrett, though, and he was talking about he learned early on that if he threw somebody out of the ring, in the match, he just took the guy and dumped him on the outside of the ring for a minute. He called that spot or whatever, that the commentators had nobody else in the ring to talk about but Jeff Jarrett. So then now they would talk about Jeff Jarrett. So in that same vein, I bring it back to Joey Janela making wacky faces when the camera zoomed in on him. We're talking about him. We're talking about him. Who the hell are we? But did Tony Schiavone talk about him? Did that make JR say something? Or is the internet more talking about him? And so on and so forth. So,
touche, Brian.
But
we
yes,
get into
very cheesy and overacted, though. But nonetheless.
Now the match takes a turn more into Darby Allin territory at this point, and we just get a complete barrage of technical pin attempts and submission attempts and whatnot from Darby Allin. And Joey reverses Darby in some sort of situation and ends up in a sit-down pile driver. And that was another one where you looked at it, Darby's head looked a little deep in Janela's thighs, and I was just, oh no. The last person I want sit-down pile driving me in this situation is Joey Janela, because at this point, he was winded 45 seconds into the match.
That's why they did the hammer lock in the first 3 minutes.
He needed walk into the ring. He needed rest holds to catch his breath.
But
yeah, Janela looked like Jericho out there, blown up within a minute, and did a pile driver on Darby. And I was just like, oh no, he's dead. But
oh no, he's dead.
Darby survived. I think it's a good thing that Darby weighs less than 100 pounds. He's probably weighing in at like 99.2. And that's why Janela was able to pull it off.
Yeah.
Darby ends up.
Go ahead.
Darby ends up hitting a hell of a avalanche code red there on Janela. I had to look it up. I thought it was an avalanche power bomb. Avalanche code red on Janela, which should have ended the match right there. But they just had to stretch it out that few extra seconds for the coffin drop, and Darby retains as we expected.
Yeah. Overall, you knew going into this, especially with their pay-per-view just being like, 3 weeks out now, 4 weeks out. Not going to dump this on Joey Janela, who was off of AEW TV. By AEW TV, I mean Wednesday night TV, not on my YouTube TV. Where he's on, the AEW Dark. I don't know if he was even on AEW Dark. Nonetheless, he had disappeared for a while. I'm glad to see him back. I like Joey Janela. I think he's very entertaining. I thought that they should have brought him back and had him involved in the Kip Sabian wedding situation with his ex-girlfriend, Penelope Ford, or at least, working TV girlfriend. That would have all been very funny and very entertaining, but they didn't do that. But I like Joey. I'm glad to see him back. I knew they were going to put the title on him, but what I'm glad to see him in this match is that he necessarily wasn't Darby Allin's punching bag, and he didn't go out there as a real enhancement talent. They put on a wrestling match.
It was believable, especially with the size difference between Janela and Allin, where Allin's clearly way more talented. You do even it out with the size difference, and that makes it okay in my book to be a more competitive match with essentially a Brooklyn Brawler type like Janela, who's a jobber, but a high-end jobber, and Darby Allin, which is championship material, obviously, by his hardware around his waist.
Yeah, I think that this was what AEW should focus on, this match, and, run that to scale across the board. These are going to be two, quote, homegrown guys. Now, people will tear me up on the internet and go, oh, they did the independent circuit for... Okay, cool. Great. Wonderful. That and 50 cents to get you a cup of coffee. Was it on my TV every week? No. So, now that it can be on my TV every week, these can be, quote, homegrown guys that they can bring up and start to put that type of stuff in their programming. You're going to change listenership. Yeah, I saw an article with, your viewership, listenership. I'm talking on a podcast here. You know what I mean. I saw an article from Eric Bischoff. He said that if, AEW has flatlined over the last year, talking about their viewership at 700, 800,000, like that's about it, with some peaks there, maybe touching 1 million, and they need to change their attitudes on being and going out and performing like they're the best and having the best talent and the best show. And if the guys don't believe it, the boys and the girls don't believe it, then the fans aren't going to believe it. But these guys, you believe this match. And so I think this is something you can get behind and you can create some momentum with. And this would be a good way to turn around and bring in some fans that aren't watching, that are wrestling fans that aren't watching, with things like this.
Precisely. It wasn't a Cirque du Soleil sideshow here. First time I've probably said it personally, where Joey Janela put on one of the best matches of the night here on national TV.
Yeah. That was it, man. I say this was A+. I love this match for many reasons, and I just explained them. And if you don't remember, tap the 15-second button and go back and listen. But I think we'll continue on tearing apart the rest of this show.
Yeah, definitely. So after this, we get Jon Moxley in the parking lot cutting a promo.
I was so excited that he was going to cut a promo. I was like, where's it going to be? Where's it going to be?
At least he's close to the building this time. He wasn't in buttfuck Iowa next to a rock foundry. But Moxley's cutting a promo, but he spends almost the entire promo time, AEW on TNT TV time, promoting a match with Kenta for the IWGP Championship, which he's holding in his hand. So he's spending, I don't know. I just had a bit of a problem with that, where you're on AEW TV. You should be promoting shit that's going on in AEW. You shouldn't be promoting shit for another company. I don't know. I might be wrong about this.
Now I'll break it down. I'm not necessarily defending what it was, but I'll say I'll take the opposite side here for it. My thought is this pay-per-view is coming up quickly for New Japan for this Kenta and Jon Moxley match. If they can push viewers to check that out, and they're going to bring it, and they brought Kenta in, in that trade of promotion to promotion, they bring Kenta in from New Japan. So if you're getting New Japan only watching fans, there's a handful of them. You're getting real niche, especially if you're just talking in the States. Now, if they're trying to expand to Japan, then you're going to bring some of that over, some viewership, so you can start to hook them in. So you send Moxley over there to New Japan to defend that championship, and boom, you bring it. Then you bring Kenta in. You're going to start to, I think it's more of a back scratch to New Japan, so they can start to work together more. Like, let's talk about your pay-per-view, and we'll give you a big push in the States, which New Japan's trying to get a foothold on. So there's like hey, we're here, we're in the States, we'll help you out, but we're going to want a few more pieces of your talent to come over every now and then. And we're going to want to send our guys over to you every now and then for some big shows and get some big, things over there. So I think it's a scratch my back, I scratch yours. And they're really trying to go, almost feels for that territory vibe of professional wrestling back in the day, where titles can travel around promotion to promotions. You're seeing that on there. But I get what you're saying, but it's a very big deal. They can start to open up that forbidden door, as they spoke about 500 times in the show.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense from that perspective. I don't know. It was just weird for me to spend so much time on TNT promoting a New Japan gig, but I definitely see where you're coming from. Again, hell of a promo for Moxley. He knows how to cut them. It's one thing that guy can do. It can talk. But moving on from there, we've got MJF and Sammy Guevara clearing out the locker room so that they could have a bit of a little chat there. I see MJF setting his phone on the table, and I kind of picked that spot out. They kind of threw it right in our face.
It was just strange and awkward and out of place. Let's also not forget that the cameraman was asked to stay so we can see the confrontation between these two.
I forgot to mention, as they clear the locker room, Guevara insists that the TV cameraman stays so all this can be broadcast, and that comes into play a little bit later as a lot of skits in AEW don't make sense. So MJF clearly setting up Sammy here, accusing Sammy of being jealous, accusing Sammy of hating Jericho, accusing Sammy of trying to take over the inner circle. Sammy very sarcastically says, "You're right. I hate Chris Jericho. I want to take over the inner circle. Is that what you want to hear?" Told Maxwell there. Maxwell does the big reveal that he's been recording Sammy Guevara on his cell phone the entire time. Sammy gets absolutely livid that MJF could trick him in such a way, smashes MJF's phone, gives him a punch to the belly, which puts MJF down for the count, and
Screams, "You've been recording me the entire time."
Yes, you recorded me the entire time. The fucking cameraman that you insisted be in the room is in the room. So any trickery or fuckery that you're afraid of that MJF may be pulling on you is on TV, Sammy, you dumb fuck. I get what they're going for. They're going for this turmoil in there where MJF and Sammy are blaming each other, but just when you have something that stupid in it, the whole thing falls apart.
Let's just break it down real quick on how they could have done this just a touch better. The cameraman follows him back to the dressing room. He clears out the dressing room, tells the inner circle, "Hit the bricks, I need to talk to Maxwell." And so they send everybody out, and then on the way out, maybe Wardlow, maybe you see Sammy or you see MJF set his camera down, his phone, and then you leave that on recording. And then that video leaks out later in the night. And then they have the fight. Something along those lines where there's something going on, or the cameraman is peeking through the door because he gets pushed out of the room, but then the door comes back open, because MJF hands him some money and greases the palm of the cameraman to stay. There's two ideas for you.
Yeah, but instead we get Sammy feeling like he got hoodwinked by MJF, where the complete setup and hoodwinkery is on official AEW cameras. So none of it, Sammy had no reason to be upset, is basically what I'm coming down to.
Yes, 100%. Sammy had no reason to be upset in this storyline because we saw the nonsense. So any tomfoolery of the editing that he was going to show Jericho, Sammy could go, "Well, were you watching our TV show?" Because it went out nationwide, TNT, the whole thing there. No? Okay, cool.
Right. The only source of information Jericho has is MJF's audio cell phone recording.
That's it. That's all he believes.
He doesn't watch the show. He doesn't watch TNT.
He didn't DVR it. He can't go back and rewatch it.
No. So, yeah, it's just, come on. You guys get decent concepts and then you just fuck it up. It's like a game of Jenga where you're building this beautiful tower and then you just knock out the wrong piece and the whole thing falls to shit. But we actually get to move on to some more wrestling action here where we've got Cody Rhodes and Lee Johnson versus pretty Peter Avalon and Oscar Baloney, I guess his name was.
I don't remember, but it's close enough.
We've got the camera focuses in on Brock Anderson at ringside. That's Arn Anderson's son. He is now training to be one of AEW's new stars.
A wrestler. And then Tony Schiavone says, "He looks like an Anderson, doesn't he? He looks like Arn and Ole." Psst, Tony. Arn and Ole aren't really brothers.
Yeah, still trying to play kayfabe from 40 years ago. I don't think anyone in the past 25, 30 years has thought Ole and Arn were actually related, but I digress.
And if you did, hit us up on social media platforms and let us know how we just killed kayfabe for you.
We let the cat out of the bag, Rampa. But we got Caesar Baloney here, and this guy's in body-wise, I'm talking muscle-wise. He looks great. But he just looks like a gangly, awkward fuck.
He's
He
he's lost out there by himself.
he is just the way his arms, he could probably scratch his kneecap standing straight up. He is just a gangly, awkward fuck. Sorry to repeat myself. But all baloney aside, we've got Cody Rhodes in this thing. Lee Johnson is putting on the performance of his life. Cody is just doing his thing, trying to make everyone in this match look good. Peter Avalon is just doing his thing, which is the chicken shit heel, make everybody hate you thing. And it's clear at this point that this is just a showcase for Lee Johnson. He even gets a new nickname, Shoddy Lee, as Shivani and JR repeated an inordinate amount of times. It's Shoddy Lee.
Shoddy Lee, we get it. They jammed it down. Now, I know we always kind of bash Cody for taking the make everybody look good route, especially in the singles matches when he was running with the TNT Championship and he was facing everybody under the sun, pulling guys in from the independent scene and all that jazz. But in this situation, I thought it worked wonderfully. I thought it fit the vibe of the match and what was happening. You had three guys greener than Kermit the Frog in the ring that didn't, they needed some guidance. And you had Cody, and don't forget, you did have Arn Anderson circling the outside of the ring. Let's, break the kayfabe wall down again that, it's all in together now. And, Arn was probably whispering to, Peter and Oscar Baloney over there of what to do as well, calling some spots and some shots. So you had two very seasoned veterans and Arn Anderson and Cody, and then working your way backwards with the three other guys. And, it was definitely to help them out. It wasn't stellar. I'm not talking this was a 5-star match. Go, and DVR it and save it for the archives. We're going to show the world. But it was a good spot to put Cody in. If he doesn't want to go out and necessarily be the Hulk Hogan and be that guy right now, then cool, be this guy, and he can do decent stuff in these types of spots.
No, this match was exactly what it was. The spotlight was not there for Cody. This match was all about Lee Johnson, and Lee was doing his best out there to make sure everything in this match went as planned and as perfectly as it could, highlighted by a little subtlety there. Lee Johnson's getting ready to do a springboard off the top rope to springboard back into the ring. Old boy even checks the ropes and makes sure they're nice and dry before he hops up on them. You don't want to. This is your big moment, Lee. Spotlight's on you. Everybody's 800,000 people are watching you. You don't want to slip on your ass off that top rope. Yeah. You see him do a little squeak, squeak. Make sure the rope's dry. Hops in on old Petey Avalon and does his thing.
You don't want to go out there and have an Evan Bourne moment, whatever they're calling him now in AEW, and you botch your shooting star press on your melon day one, moment one. So, again, this match was not – it wasn't bad. It wasn't amazing. It just existed in the mid of the card, which was fine for it. But if Cody wants to be that guy again, I think this is a good spot, and a good way to do it is in tag team type situations. One-on-one, again, it looks like a guy playing, Make-A-Wish. Like you won a lottery to go in a wrestling ring with some guys for a couple hours or a couple minutes.
But like I said, this match did what it was supposed to do. We get to see Lee Johnson come out of his shell. They end up taking this match. Johnson gets the pin. He had an amazing record of 0-29 before this match. So Lee gets the win. He does a little speech to being interviewed by Tony Schiavone after this match. Maybe we need a little promo class for Lee there, as he sounds like Kanye West in 2004. Sounds like his jaw's wired shut and he's speaking through the wire. But the Rhodes family trained Johnson. Even Brandy gives her a little shout out. And Tony Khan announced on the internet there, I'm not sure if it was Twitter or what, Tony Khan announced it's official Lee Johnson is All Elite. I assumed he was already signed to the company, but apparently he just hangs around a lot. But he is officially under contract now with All Elite Wrestling.
Yeah, I think for some of those dark wrestling fellas, they give them, I don't know, they kind of just treat them like, those uncontracted, unsigned. They can come in and just get, a nightly gig and a nightly pay and work some dark gigs and maybe be an enhancement talent on Dynamite. So at least they get to make a few bucks, and then, hey, now he gets a contract for whatever that's worth. I don't know. I mean, he could just be on a contract that he can't go wrestle anywhere else, and they're only going to pay him nightly when he does work.
Who knows what the contract looks like, but I ain't mad at old Lee Johnson here. I'm ready to see some Shoddy Lee and see what he can do.
I'm ready to see AEW, turn it around and grow these homegrown guys and create that alternate brand that they had spoke so highly about and so much about leading up to this. Now, I'm not mad at guys that get cut from WWE and come over. I'm not mad at guys that get cut from NXT and come over. I'm not mad at guys that get cut from Impact or New Japan and they jump around. That's fine. People want to shit on that on the internet, and I don't get that. But I'm also would like to see it more like a 70-30. Like, let's load their guys up, be 70% of the roster of building talent, and 30% you bring in, pre-existing names into the company. That's where I see it should go. And this is another guy that has, potential, because we haven't seen anything bad. We haven't seen anything good either, but we haven't seen anything bad. So he's got nowhere to go but up.
Yeah, from what I've seen of those 29 losses of Lee Johnson, he works his ass off, does a great job selling. I'm ready to see the turnaround and see a nice little homegrown AEW talent come out of this company and end up getting some TV time. And from there, we've got Dasha backstage with the Young Bucks.
I thought this was funny.
It wasn't terrible.
The Good Brothers are funny.
Yeah, right. Dasha asks what happened at the Battle Royal. The Young Bucks say, we need to ask the Good Brothers that question. And the Good Brothers, they just couldn't leave it alone. At this point, the Wednesday night wars are over. Nobody's trying anymore. I think they're just doing their own thing. They're not going for each other's throats or anything. But the Good Brothers couldn't help. I'm sorry, what?
I was going to say, as it should be. I think they should just keep doing their own shows, and that's how they take their jabs, if you will, is just do your own wrestling show.
Right. So I thought, especially with Good Brothers not even being in AEW, with them being on the absolute lowest brand on TV at this point, they had no business throwing the ratings in NXT's face. The 844,000 to 610,000 viewers for last week. So that left a little bit of a bad taste in my mouth, but again, they're heels though. Maybe it's just what they're supposed to do.
I can give them a little break. They haven't probably got to properly vent themselves on a platform that will be heard by WWE, and maybe this is just a small one here. These guys left a very good career and good time going on in New Japan. They were doing very well for themselves, and they were putting on, great matches, and I'm sure doing just fine. To come to WWE to be what?
To be AJ Styles' little
Lackeys.
brothers there.
Do you remember, name a moment that they had in WWE? You can't, but I can name 3 they've had in AEW, right? You know what I'm saying? So they kind of got to take their shot after getting cut, leaving New Japan, going to WWE, getting buried, doing nothing with, and then getting cut at the first sign of trouble in a pandemic. They're like, well, all right, you're not on our touring. You were our touring jobbers, and we're not touring, so hit the bricks, guys. They got to be at WrestleMania. Now go home.
Right. You got to get to be thrown off a roof by The Undertaker in a movie scene and skedaddle. Best of luck in your future endeavors. But just my other problem with this thing, don't go patting yourself on the back so much for this viewership blowout of 234,000 people, because it's not AEW being a absolutely fantastic show that's causing them to get more viewers. NXT is just that bad. NXT is just not fun to watch. AEW by no means is a fantastically written show, but it's fantastically fun to make fun of and to point out the flaws, where NXT is just boring and bad, and 99% of the people on the show, I could give a fuck if I see them next week.
Yeah, this would be the watching the NBC nightly news for NXT, which would be like, I'm Ted Koppel, and very kind of just delivered and very structured, and you know what was going to happen, and very boring. And with all respect to AEW, it would be like watching the Jerry Springer show. You didn't watch the Jerry Springer show because it was good. You watched the Jerry Springer show because you didn't know what the heck was going to happen. So that's the type of stuff that you're looking for here is that's the difference between them. For me, the overproduced, super polished NXT versus the raw, gritty, random, unthought out AEW. So
Outlaw Mud Show.
It makes for a little more entertaining in its own right. NXT, kind of what's going to happen because it's, follows the cookie cutter form and a formula. The wrestlers are great. They do great performances. Personally, I think NXT steps their game up through the roof when they have their takeover events. Then I tune into those and you go, God dang. And then they reel me in for a few weeks watching the weekly show, and then I go, and I get bored, and then there's an NXT, there's a takeover event. And they win, and then even more for me, when they had their NXT takeover events the Saturday before a big pay-per-view, a Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, etc., boy, those young cats tried to put it on. They said, let's go. So, now they're getting their own time slots. They still do very well, so nonetheless, that's my defense for NXT and AEW where we stand. Now, back to the Young Bucks and the Good Brothers.
Yes, so the Good Brothers shift the blame of the Young Bucks losing in the Battle Royal. They shift the blame to the Inner Circle and say that the Young Bucks need to focus more on the Inner Circle. Don't worry about us. They're all in the same squad, the Too Sweet. And so, yeah, the Bucks immediately go on a rant about the Inner Circle. And next week, we will see Proud and Powerful versus the Young Bucks on AEW Dynamite.
Now, do you think the Proud and Powerful will win the Tag Team Championships now pushing about 2 weeks out from their pay-per-view in the beginning of March?
I think so. Why not?
Now, does that mean that does the stipulation then follow them, and then Proud and Powerful can then choose the champion of any of their kind, of any of their choosing, and now they have to fight MJF and Chris Jericho? Wow, that would be amazing writing on for AEW, wouldn't it?
Well, no need to worry about all that. Proud and Powerful are going to get their asses whooped, and we will see Young Bucks versus MJF and Jericho as scheduled.
Or AEW. Now, you guys, AEW tends to listen to this podcast, people. I don't know if you know this, but, I tend to go out on the limb, make some bold-ass predictions, and then sometimes these things just follow up and happen. So somewhere is listening to this podcast and sharing it with AEW executives. Now.
I see you, Scavone. I see you, Scavone.
What if the opposite happens next week? You've got Young Bucks, Proud and Powerful. Proud and Powerful are now interfered by Jericho and MJF so that they lose and they get to face and still get their title shot at the pay-per-view against the Young Bucks. And then they kind of screw over their own buddies in the tag team so they don't lose their shot against the Young Bucks for the championship. That would be pretty cool, too. That could be done. There's a way to work that.
I could see that. That would actually be some good writing, Brian, so don't hold your breath.
Shit, maybe I need to get a new job.
Well, move to Canada and become friends with Kenny Oshmega, and you'll be on AEW next week as a writer, guarantee it. But we move on from this. We got once again Proud and Powerful versus Young Bucks next week, and Dasha is now hanging out with Adam Page, and here comes Matt Hardy. He's gonna invite Adam Page to the bar for a drink, and
I just want to take 2 steps back to the last funny part. We'll go back to this in 2 seconds. The funny part that I liked about this, we'll go back to the Young Bucks and the Good Brothers, is when they wanted the Good Brothers wanted their Too Sweet, and he's going, "Too sweet me," and then Matt's going, Sting's over there, don't do that in front of Sting. That's something we do on our own. And then Nick was like, "I'll do it," and they did it very subtle. And he's like, the Good Brothers were trying to sell it. They're going, "Come on, it's Stinger. He was in the Wolf Pack. He knows what's up." And they do their little Too Sweet to each other. Then Carl Anderson walks away and he goes, "Stinger, give me a Too Sweet." I don't know why I found that hilarious when he yelled, "Stinger, give me a Too Sweet." He just walks off a camera.
Unfortunately, I missed that. I might have to go watch that 10 seconds of
that
tape
ending
again.
of it really kind of brought the whole thing together for me. It made it really funny when he was like, they were trying to get it Too Sweet, and they were like, Sting's over there. I don't want to. They did him real small.
Yeah, we kind of stole that shit from the from the NWO there. So
Stinger,
that's
give
how
me a
we
Too
keep
Sweet.
lives.
So anyways, yes, we'll move on now when we get Dasha with Adam Page. Man, these Adam
we're
Page,
back to Hardy
yeah.
trying to recruit Adam Page into his clique, his conglomerate, the 30% crew, and we get another awkward moment from the amateur comedy troupe, the Dork Order here, as Page is making his way to, I don't know, get his phone or get his gear or whatever before he goes to the bar, and Dork Order just kind of, they're just, I don't know. God bless Brody Lee for making that group semi-watchable for a few weeks. But man, they are just back to a pile of mashed schlubs that nobody cares about.
Yeah, and they're doing like that 17-year-old awkward, like, "Hey, I like a girl," and then he's I shouldn't have said that. I'm so stupid. And he's like, "Oh, hey, how's it going? Hey," trying to be friends. It's the dorks trying to be friends with the cool guy, and they're trying to be friends. And Adam Page is too nice to not be friends with him. It's like the quarterback in high school trying to, these kids want to be friends with him. So it's very cheese and off the wall. But what I want to kind of discuss for a half a second here is this new Matt Hardy character that they've invented and created out of nowhere.
Well, 1 second before we hop on that, let's rewind the Dork Order back a year or so ago. Dork Order was recruiting losers. They were recruiting people who got shat on in life. And their whole gimmick was, do people spit on you when they walk by? Are you a loser? Are you an outcast? Come join the Dork Order. We're going to take over the earth. We're going to take over in numbers, and we're going to be the powerful ones. Now, fast forward to Wednesday night, they're back to being just a bunch of dorky losers who are awkward around the cool guy. And they lost their entire premise of a stable. Now they're just nothing but a bunch of goofy, bad comedy losers again. And it's just, what are you guys doing? What is it?
Well,
I don't get it.
For 37 weeks of this podcast, Eric, this is episode 37, you've been referring to them and calling them the Dork Order. Now, I think you've put this out into the ether of the world that they are a bunch of dorks. And then now they've absorbed this as their persona. They've been listening to the podcast, and they said, he's right, we're dorks. We're dorks. They call us the Dork Order, we're dorks. And now they are acting like dorks. And you have ruined the Dark Order by calling them the Dork Order. And I think it's your fault. So go ahead and take blame for that.
Sweet. Bake me a cake and we can put someone's face in it, because that's another thing that happens every week.
You're an influencer.
Right. Now, back to what you were saying about Matt Hardy's new schmarmy heel 30% agent gimmick. What were you going to say about that?
They bring him in a while back now, early pandemic time frame.
When he was teleporting all over the arena.
Right, he could teleport, and he was broken Matt Hardy. And then he would go back and forth from being broken Matt Hardy to Matt Hardy 2.0, which was
and woke Matt Hardy.
Woke Matt Hardy. And then Then he got hurt, in that match with Sammy Guevara. And then he said he was going to go home, but he never went home. He just kept hanging out with Private Party. He was there for like the next 3 weeks, and finally he's like, I'm back. Well, you never left.
He never missed a week.
Yeah, he never missed a week. Now, necessarily, was he wrestling? No, but was he at the ring and at the events? Yeah, and on TV of some kind? Yeah. And then now he's got a suit on, and he's an agent. And he's signing people to contracts. And then they like him, and then they hate him, but then they like him. He's taking people over to TNA or Impact to wrestle on Impact. And I'm just going, none of this makes sense. Like, it was just like, hey, oh shit, we signed Matt Hardy.
Let's just throw shit at a wall until it sticks, I guess.
I guess, like, at least WWE would have used the head injury and the falling when he was, got knocked out in that match with Sammy Guevara, that it changed his attitude. Tell me you wouldn't believe that, Matt Hardy hit his head and now he thinks he's an agent.
Right. They could have played into that, and it would make a little more sense than it does.
You'd go,
now.
I don't know, the goofy guy dresses up and changes his name and says delete, 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 and talks to lawnmowers in his garage and makes videos for the internet when he's this character. What the hell? I'll believe he hit his head and pretends that he's a schmarmy agent of some kind. But they didn't. They just said 1 week he's an agent. Now he's like a real greaseball and used car salesman thing. It just... reach in the bag of gimmicks and grab something out. We need something for TV. What are you going to do? All right, that's it, I guess.
Well, they dig their heels in on the schmarmy agent, Matt Hardy here, a little bit later in the show, and we will touch back again on that. But right now, we are getting, I'm sorry, I lost my place here. We are getting Pac versus Ryan Ziegler here in a one-on-one match. And I know it's Ryan Nemeth, folks, but this guy needs his name out there, and he needs his brother's name to get a little recognition. So now, from now on, he will be Ryan Ziegler in my book. Don't try and change my mind.
Yes, he needs a pat on the back and give him a shot to the moon. Now, I think, obviously, this match was set up to be everything we got from it.
This match was exactly what it was. If that makes any sense, it makes as much sense as AEW booking. But Pac was here to show how aggressive he is, to show those kicks, to show that he's a fucking monster. He's a 5'7" monster. And Ziggler, being the new guy in town, was here to show that he can sell his ass off. And that's what we got from this match, essentially.
Right. This was put together to show that Pac's a badass and can do what he can do, and hey, Ryan got some TV time.
Right. Pac is just right off the bat super aggressive. He's on offense immediately. At one point, Ziggler here gets Pac with a very ugly looking drop kick. I think maybe he rushed it a little bit, and a brutal looking DDT. That DDT hit on Pac. I had to rewind and watch again. Because, man, it was just that good where it looked like, once again, we had another broken neck on AEW. But that was a nice-looking DDT, but that was the last offensive move that old Ryan Ziegler got in this match.
That was it. And there was just, again, they brought him out. Love the kid. We'll see where he goes from here, but it was you might as well you could have thrown the Brooklyn Brawler in there. You knew what this was and how it was going to go. Pac wasn't gonna. They're putting a rocket ship up his ass and sending him to the moon, because he's got to be one of their next guys. He's gonna work his way up. They're all in on Pac, so he's not gonna lose to Ryan Nemeth on his second night on TV.
Right. So we got what we expected. Nemeth, if he could show off any skills in this match, it was his selling skills. We know the kid can sell. So that's down Pac. We got the spotlight on Pac here. Pac obviously wins with a black arrow and a brutalizer, and that's that. We move on from there.
Yeah, we can't spend too much time there because we knew it was going to happen. So what was our next segment there, Mr. Eric?
Our next segment is we're flashing back to this shit show pile of shit, garbage written wedding from last week. we just have to go back to this, Brian, don't we? The fucking low light of last week's show.
Yeah.
Let's just go ahead and put some shine on it this week.
At least they only took like 30 seconds, 40. It wasn't very long. Maybe less than a minute, it seemed like. So it wasn't like they didn't draw it out too long. Sometimes AEW has been known to like recap something in real time.
Pretty much.
Let's go down to when they walk down the ring, and then here comes. Move on. Yeah. So the recap of the wedding was a shit.
Yeah, basically we just saw everything we saw last week, but with an alternate camera angle of Charles leg cuffing Miro to the ring post.
You mean you actually got to see it happen? For the love of shit.
We finally got to see that. And then we get the end of this segment and the money shot here where Miro isn't mad at Charles for his role in this wedding massacre. He is mad at Orange Cassidy. And now we have the birth of a Miro and Orange Cassidy feud. And this is not going to be good. This is going to be gold for our show because I'll blow my voice out talking about this fucking feud every week because it is going to be horrible. Miro and Orange Cassidy are now feuding.
The kiss of death for Miro. They brought him over with such high hopes.
Look what Cassidy did for Jericho's career. Ever since Jericho got involved with Cassidy, Jericho's just been in the fucking toilet ever since.
You know, they bring Miro over, the big guy, the big get, right? A big get from WWE. And he's wrestled like 3 times. He hasn't done anything yet. He's played video games and talked shit about a wedding for about what felt like an eternity.
Sang some hat away.
And here we are. Like, now he's going to fight Orange Cassidy. Like, and let's just be real. Again, this is a non-believing one. If it doesn't turn it, if it's just not a squash, then I don't know what to do with this anymore.
Especially with Miro. At least with Jericho, we can say Jericho's 50 years old and fat and out of shape and beat down. But so maybe a skinny, lazy jobber like Orange Cassidy could have somewhat of a chance with Jericho. But this is goddamn Miro. This is goddamn Rusev here. This guy is in peak physical shape and an absolute monster compared to Orange Cassidy. If Cassidy has any competitiveness in this match, and I hope this is just a match and not a feud, but if Cassidy has any competitiveness in this thing, fuck Miro, dude.
Yeah.
I will lose all respect.
He's going to get that Bray Wyatt treatment from like years past where Bray was just constantly like the eater of worlds. Bray was the guy, and then John Cena would beat him, and then Bray was the guy, and then it would be whoever else would beat him. And he just kept getting beat and buried and disappeared and, you know, whatever. And he's going to get that same treatment. It looks like Miro is going to get that same treatment. He's going to be the big mean monster and then get beat up by Orange Cassidy. And then be the big mean monster and get teased by Chuck Taylor and Trent. Like,
yeah,
what's happening? This guy should be
you're right
to the top.
This says Braun Strowman written all over it, to where Braun Strowman became such a joke that he came out at number 30 in the Royal Rumble, and none of us thought were like, that didn't mean in our heads, oh, Braun Strowman's going to take this thing. That was just like, oh, that's funny. He came out at number 30. When's he getting eliminated?
Yeah.
Shortly after, obviously.
Oh, cute. Look at him. Yep.
But that's that. We have a Miro Cassidy feud coming up here, and we've got Dasha again. I don't know what happened to Marvez at this point in the show. We haven't seen any Alex Marvez.
Whoa.
And I'm thanking my lucky stars for that. But spoiler alert, my prayers are unanswered here later in the show.
Twice.
Right. But right now, we've got Dasha with the inner circle. MJF has got his ribs wrapped up because we all know that helps broken ribs. And MJF's crying and complaining that Sammy sucker punched him. And we're still not acknowledging the fact that TV cameras got the whole thing on tape and broadcasted it. We're not acknowledging that fact at this point.
Not at all. And the fact that Jericho never saw it. Just never saw it, didn't care, didn't watch it, didn't even know it existed, never caught wind of it.
Nope. All Jericho knows at this point is that Sammy's gone AWOL, and he fucked up MJF and sucker punched him. But this leads us right into our MJF and Chris Jericho versus the Acclaimed match. This is another one where I could smell shit coming from a mile away.
Yeah.
But again, shoes are clean.
Shoes are clean. They weren't. Mine were maybe a little dirty, but they were clean.
Yeah, I had some grass stains and maybe a rabbit turd, but the Rottweiler shit wasn't smeared in my treads.
No, the freestyle thing. I don't know. I'm over it.
I just ignore it at this point.
So
I'm just being honest. When they're rapping, I'm either tapping the fast forward button or I'm looking at Reddit on my phone.
yeah, I'm kind of over it. I didn't like it when John Cena did it. I don't like it now with this thing. So we move on from that, and we'll skip past that and get into the wrestling. Eric, why don't you lead us through the first couple dances here?
All right, as expected, Jericho doing his best impression of Joey Janela from earlier. Jericho is blown up within 30 seconds of the beginning of this match. So we've got out of shape Chris Jericho and air quotes injured MJF here. And so not a whole lot coming from that end of the ring, which puts the spotlight on the Acclaimed, and they don't look half bad. Even with Jericho struggling to keep his pants up, I think he just grabbed the wrong pants out of the closet or whatever. Them boys were about 2 sizes too small. You still got the Acclaimed, the spotlight's on them with their offense. MJF is doing his thing. He's being the shitty heel, cheating, selling like a heel. MJF is doing his job. Jericho's doing what he can, and that was about that. The Acclaimed didn't look half bad.
No, they're still young, and I'll give them a lot of slack here. The rapping gimmick, it can be tweaked and worked around, and I can look past that. Their in-ring work, very promising. I still think, and I go back, and I think I said this last show, if not the show before, you can go back and check the archives, KayFabe Smark, on all podcast platforms. Make sure you give us a review and a like and a 5 stars, and however they do that now. Anyways, also, what I think this is a great spot for Jericho to be in these tag teams. He is older. He's not. I mean, he's not. I'd love to be in Jericho's shape. Even for out of shape.
He's not quite in the Andre the Giant spot with Haku carrying the team.
But I think this is a good spot where he can come in and out and lead the match and do it in a way that shows him off, and he can move through it with some young guys around him. You can, give the image that you're still the guy, and still that singles competitor that we all remember. So I think it's a good spot for him to be in. I don't know if MJF is the long-term person to be with. I don't think it is, but we'll go on from there. So these spots work good, and he can work with these guys and help call the moves and run the show and be the ring general that he is. I like it, and I think there's somewhere to go with it, and we'll just see how they go with it and how long they go with it.
Yeah, we'll see if we can keep this up where Jericho and MJF pretty much just managed this match, not doing a whole lot themselves. The Acclaimed looked decent, but as we expect, Jericho pulls out the Judas, and it's a wrap for the Acclaimed in this match. But it got accomplished what it needed to get accomplished. That the Acclaimed look okay, and they're on their way up. They're going to be a decent team in AEW.
Again, this was the night of homegrown talent, of potential homegrown talent that can be the next rising stars of AEW. And the Acclaim being another set.
And immediately after this match, Sammy Guevara comes out, and we get a little altercation. Jericho's pretty pissed off at Sammy Guevara for sucker punching his boy MJF, again because Jericho never saw anything that went on earlier in the night. This is where Sammy shines. Sammy says, "I told you guys, if any more bullshit happens with MJF, I'm out. And guess what, boys? I'm out this piece. Sammy not only leaves the inner circle, he leaves the fucking arena.
And who did he tell he was leaving the arena to? That's right.
Alex motherfucking Marvez.
Yes, sir. He told Alex Marvez Alex Marvez has been waiting by the gates for somebody to leave to interview, and he caught Sammy Guevara walking out. Sammy says, "I need to get out of here. I don't want to talk about it. I just need to get out of this place." And he said, "Hooty hoo, I'm out the gate." And he literally went out of the gate, leaving the arena.
Well, not before. Now, we just watched the last 3 or 4 minutes of this segment where Sammy Guevara explains point by point why he's leaving the inner circle. Marvez's only question to Sammy Guevara is, and I quote, "Why did you leave the inner circle?"
Because MJF's an asshole.
We just watched 4 minutes of Sammy Guevara explaining why he's leaving the inner circle. Marvez, why are you still breathing? I guess that's the point.
Well, so here's what we've learned is that nobody in the AEW show, they don't watch the AEW show. So Jericho was not aware that MJF and Sammy got into an altercation and that MJF was being a douche, so he punched him. And Marvez, well, he just stands outside by the gates and waits for people to walk out. He's not allowed to have a monitor. He gets a cameraman and a microphone, and then when people walk by, he asks them, "Hey, where are you going? Explain to me what happened. I don't get a TV." He wasn't interviewing. He was asking him because he's not allowed to watch while he's outside. And he's like, "Why are you leaving? What's happening?" So
this is just genuine curiosity on Marvez's
just genuine
part.
curiosity. He's just trying to keep up with what's happening.
Hey, why'd you leave?
Are we going home? Is the show over? He should have asked him when is this the lunch break? Do we get to eat now?
And we go from one fantastic segment to the next because now we've got Adam Page and Matt Hardy at the bar. Page is drunk off of his ass, and Hardy's still pushing hard to recruit Adam Page here, letting him know that if he's making millions and millions of dollars, that 30% is no big deal. It would be a fantastic idea for them to work together. Adam Page can be bigger than he ever dreamed.
Gonna be a billionaire. He hands over some paperwork, and Adam Page is flipping it around and says, "What the hell? I'll sign it." And
now at this point, this was just such bad acting that I guess I expected a little better. The way Adam Page was acting was that he was pulling a fast one on Hardy. I was expecting Page to not be as drunk as he was putting on and to flip through the contract and write, "Fuck you, Hardy." And then Hardy he gets all mad, and now we have a Matt Hardy Adam Page feud. But I did not get what I expected. They just followed right through with it. Adam Page was drunk and signed the contract, and Matt Hardy breaks the fourth wall there to let the camera know, make sure you get this, cameraman. So that's legally binding.
That's where the bad acting came in for me. That's where the bad acting came in for me was Matt Hardy doing the lean in, talk to the camera. Now, which way do you think this is going to go? 1, Adam Page slips something into the contract that what he signed, and it's going to flip-flop and be for Adam Page's favor. Or do you think Adam Page signed the contract and he's drunk or whatever and under the influence and then is going to be screwed in a contract with Matt Hardy, and then they're going to get into work towards a feud that way? Either way, I think this is leading to these two having a couple matches. Do you think it's going to go down the road where Adam screwed Matt, or do you think Matt screwed Adam? Which way do you think it's going to go?
I'm hoping for the first, putting my money on the second.
There you go.
So I thought the same thing as you did. We weren't communicating during the show, you and I, but I still held out hope that maybe Page somehow was able to switch the contracts earlier in the night or slip something extra into the contract to fuck Matt Hardy over. So that's what I'm hoping for. But I think they're just committing to the super simplistic storyline of Matt Hardy tricked a drunk Adam Page into signing the contract, and we'll get to a feud from there.
And then that's how he gets out of the contract, is the fight, and winner chooses the stipulation, you stay under my contract or I get to leave the contract type deal. That's probably what I will go with as well. And then where do we go now? I don't remember the next match.
Now we get Tony Schiavone in the ring. And this was the only point. I watched this entire show by myself. This was the only point where I audibly spoke to the TV because I saw Schiavone in the ring and I was just like, oh no. And then the lights went out and I exclaimed to the TV, are you fucking serious? We got to do another Tony Schiavone and Sting thing. This is every single week we're getting Tony Schiavone and fucking Sting. And I am so over it at this point. Give it a goddamn break. I'm tired of seeing a 78-year-old man come out with a baseball bat and talk shit and Schiavone just licking his ass the entire time, just tossing that salad because he's got his head so far up Stinger's ass. I am so over it. They got to do something else. Why are we seeing Schiavone licking Sting's boots every single week and wasting 5 minutes of airtime?
Couldn't tell you. I can't defend it. I can't even take the opposite side, Mr. Eric Todd. I have to go, well, because that's what they decided to do. It don't make sense to me either. I necessarily don't even like it. And then they always got to go with the stupid snow angle. And then excrement's got to get on the microphone and say, it just got 10 degrees colder here in Jacksonville. No, it didn't. It's foam, you asshole. Just go with it. Like, just let it happen. Like, if you want to have the effect, that's fine. Sting comes out, whatever. The video plays and they blow snow around. But don't comment on the snow like it's really snowing. It got colder. Sting's not a magician. He's a fucking guy who paints his face like the Crow.
One can make an argument that you can eat a steak from Ruth Chris once a week, every single week, and be okay with it. But AEW is not exactly feeding us a nice 24-ounce porterhouse here. They're feeding us a fucking bar-ass hot dog with kosher relish and fucking ketchup on it every Wednesday with this Sting and Schiavone bullshit, and they're shoving it down our throat every Wednesday, and I'm ready to puke.
Would be more excited to see them just completely just jock old WCW style and just have Sting doing his random appearances. Now I know he's not going to drop from the ceiling and all that stuff anymore, but he could just be in the rafters or up in the balcony of the seats by himself and just plotting and watching. But this calling him out to have him talk and never really say anything. The promos never go anywhere. Just seems like a waste of time, Eric, and I have to agree with you.
It's a waste of time, and Taz doesn't waste any time interrupting this thing and bringing us out to the parking lot where he's in an SUV. And AEW TNT Wednesday nights is just the most crime-riddled area. This is worse than Baltimore, worse than Detroit, worse than Chicago. Fucking Jacksonville, Florida is the crime capital of the world right now with multiple kidnappings. Arn Anderson's been kidnapped. Glizzy Gobbler's been kidnapped. And now what do we get, Brian? We get attempted murder as we have an SUV with a chain or a rope tied to it, tied to a body bag, and no need to guess here, Brian. Who's in the body bag?
Well, if Sting's out there talking and there's a body bag involved and Will Hobbs and Brian Cage are nearby, you're going to guess it's Darby Allin.
Right. If we're going to do an attempted murder skit and put somebody's life in danger, we might as well have Darby Allin involved. Darby Allin is zipped up in a body bag, and they Taz and company take off in the SUV and drag Darby Allin through the parking lot.
And then Sting is so upset that he gradually walks out of the arena. He doesn't run. He doesn't scream into the microphone. He just turns around and walks out the tube. And then they go to commercial, and they're like, and then this is what happened before we left. Sting ran out of here to go protect his friend. No, Sting didn't. Sting just said, my segment's over, and he walked away.
Sting walked to the bathroom and washed the paint off of his face and got a nice hot cup of tea and sat down at catering.
Yes, he said, oh, I got to go. It didn't make it much sense. Sting should have ran out there and been like, got out to the point where it just cuts. Like as they're driving away, Sting's getting out there, comes out the door. That's when they take off with his buddy. Like, do something, but Sting just like, well, I'll watch this on the TV, and just stared up at the Contron, and moved. It just was boring and dumb.
Get out there, do something, hit the SUV, hit the Escalade with your baseball bat, so that you're doing something with the fucking thing. Smash a window, try to grab the nothing. I mean, I get it. He's 63, 64, something like that, but
pre-tape some shit.
This was just bad, terrible.
They could have pre-taped it where he runs out, and they just edit it where when he goes out of the tube, that's when it comes together that he pops out the other side. He didn't have to really be there. Just pre-tape some shit. So what's the over-under here, Eric, on the fact that they'll mention this next week? Think they'll mention the dragging in storyline-wise, not recap, but like Sting, they're gonna be like, we're gonna get revenge on this, so they're just gonna move past it, and something else is gonna happen. Do you think Darby Allin will have a TNT title match? And like,
Darby Allin will probably fight Captain Hook or something, but Darby Allin is going to be perfectly fine. There's going to be no evidence of him being dragged behind the car like a hate crime in Alabama. It won't even get mentioned. Darby Allin is going to be fine, and he's going to wrestle somebody, and that's that. We'll move on from there. And if you got nothing else to say about that, we just keep the shit show rolling to another bad segment, because guess who's back? Back again. It's Alex Marvez.
This time on the golf course. They caught up with Kenny Oshmega earlier in the day.
Early in the day. So we have all these segments of nighttime, and it's like, well, let's take this back to Marvez. No wonder we haven't seen him, because he's been apparently gaining access to golf courses to chase Kenny Oshmega down. And this Kenny Omega golfing, not taking the match seriously. Alex Marvez just being the clueless idiot that he is. And that was about that.
Watching him cheat was pretty funny.
That was the best part of the skit, I guess I could say.
So Kenny Oshmega takes a chip from the sand trap. He said, watch this, Marvez, and he chips it out of the sand trap, and then it rolls up around the green, and then he starts talking shit to Marvez about how he's just relaxing and clearing his head. And the whole time while he's spouting that, you're watching Don Callis run around, find the ball, drop it in the hole, and then come out, and he's like, you got it in, kid. You're the best. You're the best in the world. And that was pretty funny. But it wasn't like, it didn't make the segment. It was just funny, that little bit.
That one part did play out rather well, because at first when Kenny Omega hit the ball out of the sand trap, it was the worst shot I've ever seen in my life. And I was thinking, wow, they couldn't have just taped that a couple times so Kenny could get a little closer to the hole. No, they did it on purpose so that Callis and company could cheat for him. So that actually did play out on this. But when you got Omega talking and Alex Marvez involved, it just turns the entire segment into a pile of excrement.
Yeah, Kenny should just stay away from the interviews and just stick to the in-ring work, as he can handle the majority of that. So we'll continue on.
Yeah, moving on, we actually do get back into some wrestling here. We've got the first round of the Eliminator tournament. We've got legit Layla Hirsch versus Thunder Rosa. This was okay.
I was going to make the same thing, like things that I thought I was going to go walk into walk into a garbage pit, Definitely didn't come out smelling like roses, but wasn't mad at it.
Right. I might have walked through a dumpster at this point, but all I got is a stale egg roll stuck to my shoe here because it started out okay. They start out with some mat wrestling, some submissions because that is Hirsch's specialty. Um, but I gotta tell you, old Rosanina in this one looked a little sloppy. There's a few times where she's trying to lift and throw this little thickie around like she's a stick figure, but I think Layla Hirsch just a little too thick for what Thunder Rosa's used to. Uh, she's trying to toss around like she's Riho, but it's just coming off sloppy because Rosa can't do what she normally does with smaller girls just because Hirsch is a little more compact, a little more dense, if you will.
If you will. And I think, and then on the opposite side of that coin, you had Layla Hirsch trying to do things that she shouldn't be doing, where she went out for a Lope elbow Sita. She jumped through the ropes. I don't care what excrement wants to call it. She ran and jumped through the ropes. That's not a move
It was ugly.
she needs to be doing. Us dense type folks don't need to be leaving our feet and jumping and diving on people. She ate most of the guardrail herself. She sold it that she did not get hurt. And that's just one example of what I think on the other side of what you were saying, that Thunder Rosa was trying to handle her like she was something else, and then she was trying to act like she was something else. But when she does what she does, which is the mat wrestling and actual wrestling, maybe some power moves, Layla Hirsch comes off pretty cool.
Yeah. Like I said, it was decent. Came off as experimental, just as you said, with little thicky Layla Hirsch there, not doing so well with the high flying luchador style, and Thunder Rosa not doing so well with a little heavier opponent. But Thunder Rosa wins as expected, and we move on from there to Schiavone in the back with the Jungle Boy.
Oh, yes. What happened with the Jungle Boy?
Not a whole lot here. Jungle Boy lets us know that the Glizzy Gobbler is okay.
Oh, right.
Once again, the Glizzy Gobbler, Marco Stunt, was kidnapped last week. No charges were filed, apparently. Life moves on. And Jungle Boy, he's got it out for Dax at this point, and he's going to make Dax his bitch.
Ooh, so mad. Ooh. Ooh.
Jungle Boy's trying to come off with this. He started out as a goofy Tarzan-esque character with his pet dinosaur, and now we're trying to get tough guy Jack Perry in the mix here, and it's not going to work with an opponent like Dax.
No.
Dax could murder Jungle Boy 50 times over without a scratch.
Yeah, no scratches left there. I think I know he wasn't happy about JR calling him Jungle Boy Jack Perry and emphasizing that Jack Perry name, or the Perry name, in his full name. But I think it's the best case scenario for him because, how long can a Jungle Boy last? So at least he has the option to fade in and out of this Jack Perry. I think it can work if that's what they're going for. I think it can work to be Jungle Boy Jack Perry, but I don't know if talking big talk against Dax and then splitting up tag teams for single feuds never makes sense to me on any aspect of it. Anything you do when you split up a tag team in any way that's actually still a working tag team just is weird for me. So I don't like that either for the whole thing. I don't care who it was. So don't split up tag teams and make them be singles competitors in the middle of being a tag team unless you're going to split the tag team up and be done with it. So that's where I stand on that.
Well said, sir. And we spend this segment pushing a Jungle Boy Dax feud, a Dinosaur House Party versus FTR feud here going on. But unless I missed something, why are we pushing next week FTR versus Matt and Mike Seidel. What the hell does that have to do with Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus and the Glizzy Gobbler? Did I miss something at that point? Or are we just wanting to get FTR back in action?
I think we're just reaching into the bag of shit and grabbing a name out the hat, and they had to get somebody to wrestle.
So we got Matt Seidel, who's been here for a minute, and the nepotism just keeps flowing here because now we got his brother Mike in the mix, and I've never heard of Mike Seidel, and I'm going out on a limb here. I don't feel he deserves to jump ahead of the Lee Johnsons and the Ziggler brother type wrestlers here just to get a match with FTR. I don't know. I just think Mike Seidel got this match because of who he is, who his brother is.
Probably. Probably, and I got nothing to defend that on either.
And from there, we move on to our main event of the night. We have got Kenta and Kenny Omega versus Lance Archer and Jon Moxley.
Yes, we do. Now, keep in mind, folks, this is a Texas tornado, falls count anywhere, no rules applied, which is good because I forgot that in the first 10 seconds when so all the four guys are in the ring, each one, I'm going, why is nobody, like the teams weren't partnering off, right? There was nobody like one stepping out on the apron, one staying in the ring, who's going to square up first, you take the first spot. It was, well, I'm going to stand over there. All of them were in corners. And Kenta comes in hot to Jon Moxley with that briefcase for the IWGP U.S. Championship contract and just mollywops him in the head with it. And I'm like, what are they doing? And then I realized, oh, yes, that is right. There is no rules in this match. Okay, that made perfect sense. I'm fine with it.
And I'm pretty sure this was him, but assuming because this is a Texas tornado death, no rules, ladder on a spoon match, that Paul Turner's in charge of this thing.
Oh, I'm pretty sure Turner was in charge, and we know how we feel about Paul Turner.
I still hate that guy.
And we can also say
Turner's a moron.
So yeah, hopefully those two drops age well, and that actually was Paul Turner officiating this match. I'm pretty sure we were correct on that one. But yeah, I was confused. I didn't know it was a Texas tornado no rules match. So I'm watching and I am just confused because there's no count coming from the ref as we got Omega and Kenta just straight up double teaming Jon Moxley for a solid minute. And so I'm realizing this is no DQ whatsoever, but the whole time that Mox is being double teamed here, Lance Archer's not doing the normal AEW thing where you just sell an injury outside the ring for 3 minutes. Lance Archer's just crouching in the corner, watching like he's in the audience, just watching his partner get beat down. And it's not even in a sinister way either. Like, haha, let that cocksucker gets what he deserves. Archer's just legitimately waiting for his cue to attack Kenny Omega. And that's it.
yes. It would have made more sense to make him have that sinister look like, okay, we're not friends. We're just here in this match together. And you two, you guys beat him up, and that's fine. I don't really like him anyways, but I'm going to beat the two of you up. And he was just kind of crouched in the cut waiting for his cue to be like, oh, my turn.
Right. It's like they put this match together and they forgot to give Archer something to do while he was waiting for his cue. And at that point, I just knew this early in the match, I knew it was going to be a complete shit show. Not as bad as a shit show as when Tessa Blanchard beat Brian Cage clean in Impact, but a shit show nonetheless.
You crazy bastard.
We kind of pair off into a separate fights here, and we've got Mox and Kenta, the 2 men of the hour here, just trading the weakest, worst forearm shots I've ever seen on TV. They honestly look like recruits in Florida Championship Wrestling practicing their strikes to make sure they're not hurting each other. These were the weakest, shittiest blows I've ever seen from two professionals, especially from two people who receive as much praise as Kenta and Jon Moxley at this point.
Well, you know what? I didn't pick up on that so much. I didn't think that they looked amazing. I just didn't dissect it into the layers of the onion that Eric Todd had peeled this apart into being. After you break it down, sure, you didn't help me. You didn't help sell it to me at all. I don't want to buy the product anymore.
No, when you're doing a no DQ match or a brutal street fight situation like this is supposed to be, strikes are essential. And when you're throwing these are worse strikes than like Alexa Bliss and goddamn Tori Wilson would give each other in WWE. These were the girliest strikes I've ever seen in my life. So that was like number 2 or number 3 or number 4, wherever at this point, to take me out of this match. Now, the way AEW's been doing their shows, I'm not sure if everyone's queued up on this, but AEW will do a live show on a Wednesday, and they will film the next week's Dynamite on Thursday, the next night. So they work 2 nights in 1 week, take a week and a half off. You could tell this was the off week. This was the recorded week because we all remember Kenta's shitty go to sleep from last week where he didn't even come close to Mox's face with the knee strike. Kenta delivers once again. Kenta attempts a go to sleep on Mox, and it just looks horrible. And Mox reverses it into a paradigm shift and has to hold this attempt for way too long. Mox reverses into the paradigm, and he's attempting to DDT Kenta's face into the mat for probably a good 10 seconds while we're waiting for Kenny Omega to get in the ring with the garbage can. And this was just bad. This is just
bad.
People waiting for their cues, and just bad timing, bad striking, bad everything. And I got a little ahead of myself. The evidence of the taping will come in a little bit here, but just that right there was just more shit to pile on.
Do you think this is why normally in these type of Texas Tornado 4-way sudden death matches, ladder on a spoon, as you said, that you usually see teams of 2 break off into groups, meaning, you would have Kenta and Moxley going, and they go way backstage or they're way up in the stands, and the camera cuts to them doing their gimmick, and you've got Archer and, you know what I'm saying, doing their thing, and then it goes back and forth that way, Archer and Omega doing their thing, so that way it there's not so much confusion of 4 guys doing 4 different things in one small, 15 by 15 ring or however big their AEW's ring is. I think that's what, personally, I think that's why. I think there was just so much happening and so much nonsense and everybody trying to do their own thing that it gets lost in the proverbial sauce here on the KayFabe Smark podcast.
It wouldn't be an episode of the KayFabe Smark podcast if we didn't say something got lost in the sauce. But yeah, and that works for a taped match. I don't know about you, but I didn't see any non-AEW people in the audience during this match. So I think that was, they paired them off into separate areas again, so I think we could edit this how we wanted. We could show what we wanted of Kenta and Moxley and what we wanted of Omega and Archer. And we get 2 decent spots here. So there is a little sugar sprinkled onto the shit at this point. Omega did bring in a trash can, which was a good metaphor for this match. And he performs a moonsault, and that wasn't too bad, where he lands on the trash can. Lance Archer brings a ladder into the ring, leans it in the corner, and flips Kenny Omega onto the ladder. And that actually looked pretty good. Omega took that nice and flat onto the 45-degree ladder, and that didn't look too bad. Now, this is where I alluded to earlier, where we get some nice shoddy editing going on here. Unlike the KayFabe Smark, where we do this in one take, we don't chop it up and edit any bad things out. If either one of us says anything embarrassing or stupid, it gets left in. Not AEW, folks, because we've got Peter Avalon involved in this match. For some reason, Brian, there's a heart-shaped bed in the audience at the AEW Jacksonville Arena here.
That's because Peter Avalon's I forget his gimmick name now. Something of love, or he's supposed to be like a Rick Rude type character, I guess.
Yes. As I call him, the Trailer Park Rick Rude a couple
Yes.
weeks ago. So Peter Avalon's involved in this, and this is where Kenta gives him the second version of the shitty go to sleep that we saw last week. But where the non-strike, the non-contact from Kenta's knee into Avalon's head happens, immediate jump cut. The minute that knee is supposed to strike Peter Avalon, we cut to a completely different camera angle here. And that's where it's just like, oh my God, you guys just took a shitty match with shitty spots and shitty performances, and you just chopped it up to make it look as good as possible, and it still looks like shit. What is going on here? These are supposed to be 4 of the top talents in the industry, and Peter Avalon. and it's just chopped up pile of shit.
This explains why. We'll get to it when we keep going here. So where are we at now? Where are we moving to? There's a spot when they go backstage that I've got to comment on.
This is where we're still selling. Kenny Omega got choke slammed by Lance Archer, I believe, onto the heart bed. And Omega is just selling this choke slam on the heart bed for God knows how long, while John Moxley and Kenta make their way through the arena, and they're on their way to the kitchen, Brian.
Yes. They do their kitchen spot. They're in the back, and then all 4 of them end up back there at one point. And then John Moxley takes them over to the kitchen surface.
Yes. Moxley drags Kenta over to a couple prep tables that are in the kitchen area, and rolls Kenta onto the prep tables, and that's where we get the golden line of the night from Excalibur here. He puts him onto that kitchen surface.
And I believe it was JR that
it was definitely JR
promptly corrects him and says, "No, that's a counter."
Oh no, you
Did I
just
get it wrong?
flubbed it there, Excalibur Jr.
Oh, what was it?
JR chimes in and says, "It's called a table."
Oh, a table, a counter. At least I was closer, had more of a description than a kitchen surface.
Than our lead. That's almost like the medical facilities in WWE.
Yes.
But yeah, at least you got it damn close with a counter, where our pretty much lead announcer here refers to them as kitchen surfaces. Now, we got to bring the goofy gimmicks into this match. It wasn't goofy enough, apparently. We've got Mox hitting people with actual potatoes.
Now,
the vegetables, folks.
I thought there were so many kayfabe inside wrestling term gimmicks that people know about. By throwing a potato in the ring is when you throw a damn near real punch or a real punch. You're throwing hot ones. You're really hitting guys throwing potatoes. So if you're not aware what I'm getting at here, people, throwing potatoes. There were so many jokes that they could have ran with, where AEW always wants to kind of tear down the kayfabe wall and expose these things a little bit, that they could have been like, whoa, Moxley's really back there throwing the potatoes. Oh, that was a big potato, and there could have been receipts for the potatoes. There could have been so many things back and forth, right? But they just kind of let it sit.
I'm going in the opposite direction where they could have left it alone at the fact that Moxley was hitting people with potatoes. I think if they just would have let it there, let it be there, let it marinate, us at home would have got a little chuckle to ourselves, like, he's throwing potatoes. But Shivani does have to let us in on the joke and very sarcastically almost says, he's throwing potatoes. And JR chimes in with, it's Spud City. They just had to let us know potatoes, potatoes, potatoes.
Yeah. Well, in my defense, what I was going for is really over the top and cheesy with potatoes and receipts, and they could have really just kind of had fun with it. They just kind of said it, and it just kind of died, and it wasn't funny. They didn't deliver it funny. It wasn't over the top. Imagine Jerry Lawler doing it, like, you know what I'm saying, like 1999 Jerry Lawler. Puppies! Like, they're throwing potatoes, King! Like...
Right. So I see what you're saying. So we needed to go in one direction or the other. We needed to let it marinate and hope the Smarks at home figure it out that he's throwing potatoes. Or since we are in AEW, we should have went full on AEW. Hit him with a few potatoes and then smash his head into a cash register and give him a receipt for that potato with another potato.
Would have been great.
You had to commit to something, but instead we just get potatoes, a couple quick potato jokes that fall flat on all of our ears, and then we move on.
Yeah, and then this is what I was thinking of earlier with this whole taped and editing thing here. This makes way more sense to me, as I wasn't assuming this was the taped week, or I couldn't figure out what was happening. Now that the potato gimmick's over, we wrestled on the kitchen surface. That's a table. All of a sudden, we go into a weird recap of everything that's happened in the match so far. So we get this. They do this flashback segment in the middle, and not even like a flashback segment where they got the picture-in-picture, not necessarily going to the commercials that they do the picture-in-picture, but, they throw the live thing up in the corner and they go, look, this happened earlier, and they do the recap. They just went straight on full screen, recap the match for damn near 90 seconds, it felt. That's a long time on TV land.
Between a minute and 2 minutes.
Right.
And, yeah, that was very off-putting. It wasn't smooth. It didn't look like it should be there. But yeah, I'm following you.
And then I'm like, if they're doing this live, this is like, did somebody like get lost and like they got to bring them back out? Then they're like, oh, here they come from the kitchen, and then they come walking back out. But it makes me think that was just a spot to edit in. All right, let's get out of the kitchen. Everybody back up this way. Recap, reset, and start shooting again. Is my only opinion now after being exposed that this was probably or most definitely the taped week. So this was just a bad spot for an edit. They were like, hey, throw in a recap. So something might have happened to some other tape. So maybe cameras got involved, got broken, something got unplugged. So I don't know what happened, or it was just a way to edit it together. But it was a weird edit together. They didn't sell it that it was live by that point. It made me think this was put together.
Right. I think the last thing we seen in the kitchen was Mox just laying nicely on a table, waiting for a spot to happen, again with the bad timing. And we do get a splash from Kenta onto Mox. And all of a sudden, we're back to the arena here after the recap. And we've got the Good Brothers and Jake Roberts getting involved in this match.
The Good Brothers was well expected. Jake Roberts needs to stop. Jake just needs to be the talking mouthpiece for Lance and stop getting in the ring. Unfortunately, I know all he's ever known and loved is professional wrestling, but, Jake, you don't have it no more. Your short arm clotheslines are slow and clunky. You look like an old ballroom dancer at best. Leave it alone. Be the mouthpiece. Keep shaving your sideburns up to the top of your head and call it a day.
You know what, Brian? I'm going the opposite direction. I think Jake Roberts still has it, and I want a main event next week of Jake Roberts versus Dr. Luther in a geriatrics fall anywhere match.
Geriatrics fall anywhere. The Good Brothers coming in only made sense. What I liked what they did with Lance Archer towards the end of this match is they really put Lance onto a pedestal. They just put him up and made him look, be big and scary like they've kind of pushed him before in the beginning. So I was kind of digging that. He absorbs a kendo stick shot from Kenny, just takes it, he chicken wings that thing, pulls it away, breaks the kendo stick. The Good Brothers get involved. He's holding everybody off for a moment. You can only hold 4 guys off for so long, and, well, the rest kind of goes from there. So, but I thought they made Lance look good there in these, big guy matches. Or,
Archer looked great. Moxley does have to bring in the barbed wire baseball bat. We can't have a no DQ match involving Jon Moxley without a baseball bat. He's saving a crouched and hurt Jake Roberts from a Kenny Omega V trigger, and starts hitting people very gingerly in the tummies with his barbed wire baseball bat. Once again, you bring in a weapon that can literally kill anybody with one hit, and you're tapping them in the tummies. And leave it to Anderson here to completely sell a baseball bat belly spot that he took right in the tag team championship belt. He took it. Moxley gingerly taps the belt with the baseball bat, and Anderson's on the ground selling his ass off.
Well, yes.
Kenta hits Moxley with a go to sleep finally. Anderson and Gallows hit Lance Archer with the Magic Killer. And this is another point where they didn't really know how to write Archer into this, because Archer pretty much has to no-sell the Magic Killer so that he can get onto his mark so Kenny Omega can hit him with the V-trigger.
And then as a team, then Kenny tries to go for the one-winged angel.
But Archer's a little too beefy for that.
So he calls in the help of the Good Brothers to help boost him up onto the shoulders. They get him up, and he slams him down. And as we know, nobody kicks out from the one-winged angel.
1, 2, 3. Kenny Omega and Kenta win the match.
And that's a wrap on that. That was AEW, man. Honestly, I thought this show was pretty good for a few dips of the storytelling, maybe a few slides of some bad editing. But overall, I thought this was a way better show than last week, even with the surprise of Kenta. Like last week, that was like they just kind of said, well, we're just going to put all of our money on that. We don't need to do anything else. Just put a cherry on it and have Kenta show up and people pop for it. The whole show around it sucked. This show was pretty good all around, I thought, for the most part.
We had a couple sleeper matches in here where we thought we're going to stink the joint up, and it actually ended up being okay. This was by far not the best Wednesday night AEW's ever put on, but it was also far from the worst. And compared to last week, it was A-okay in my book.
A-okay. Well, do we have anything else to discuss before we wrap this up for tonight, Eric?
No, I don't think so. Pretty much this weekend, NXT does have TakeOver, and I don't know about you, Brian. We may discuss this in the future, but this might be NXT's last chance with me, man. If they blow it with TakeOver, because the weekly Wednesday night show from NXT has absolutely sucked, and everything I've read about them has sucked, and I can't bring myself to watch NXT. So I'm hoping they come through with TakeOver to kind of bring my interest back into it. But man, if TakeOver sucks, I might have to give you the lead on any of the NXT shit. I know you're dying to have the lead to watch NXT.
I got faith that the takeovers are still going to be where it's at. But so tune into that. We're going to talk about that next week, I'm sure. We'll still talk about AEW as well, and probably maybe dabble a little bit into the recap of what happens on NXT for their Wednesday show, following their pay-per-view. We'll have to touch on that a little bit, as we don't normally do here on the KayFabe Smark podcast. But once again, make sure you head on over to the KayFabe Smark on all social media platforms. That's YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. Hang out with us over there. Head on over to anchor.fm/KayFabe Let us know what you think about professional wrestling. And what was the question you told him to answer, Eric, earlier? Do you remember? Because I forgot what you said as I'm trying to put myself on the spot here.
Yes, WrestleMania 2022. Right. Would you rather see Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar or Roman Reigns versus Rocky Maivia, a.k.a. The Rock, a.k.a. Dwayne Johnson?
Yes. And then make sure you do all of that, and then head on over to audibletrial.com/thekayfabesmark. Get a free audiobook, free 30-day trial to that. Check out their podcasts, their audiobooks, their Audible originals, the whole nine. They got a whole thing going on over there. It's the Netflix for audio. So check all that out and hang out with us, man. This is the KayFabe Smark podcast, and we are here to talk wrestling. Next week, NXT TakeOver. And Eric, you got anything for us?
All I got is one sentence, Brian, and that sentence is hooty hoo, we out the gates.